Microphone's on. Ready. All right. Let's call the August 12th, 2025 regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the Village of Los Ranchos to order. It is 6:01, it looks like. All right. Let's call the August 12th, 2025 regular Planning and Zoning Commission.
We have a little echo going on here.
It is, bear with us for just a minute. We have a technical issue.
Words worth repeating.
We're good to go.
You must have entered the recording. Okay.
You sound good.
I think we're ready now. Okay, before we begin tonight's meeting, please be aware that the public may provide testimony during the public comment period or for applications that will be considered during the public hearing portion of the meeting. However, all speakers, including applicants, agents, members of the public in support or members of the public in opposition to a particular matter, must sign in on the corresponding sign-in sheet at the back of the room. If you happen to come in a little late, I do have it here, and Michelle, who's at the back of the room, can notify me that there's additional people that are wishing to participate in one of these hearings. If you wish to speak during the public comment period or provide testimony for a specific public hearing item and you haven't already signed up to do so, please make sure you sign up now, and if not, as I said, please notify Michelle at the back of the room. We will begin with a roll call. Commissioner Barrow?
Here.
Commissioner Martinez?
Here.
Commissioner Edward is running late. Commissioner Baldwin?
Here.
Commissioner Tagliapietra?
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Haywood?
Yeah.
And Commissioner Homan, I am here. All right. So the next thing up is adoption of the agenda. So, Mr. Williams, is there any changes to the agenda as previously presented?
Test. There we go. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. No, ma'am, no changes to the agenda. And we do have one small change to the consent agenda, or specific to the meeting minutes from July that are listed on the consent agenda. I can outline that at this time if you'd like, or wait for other commissioners to weigh in on this matter.
Let's wait until we actually call the consent agenda, if you would, please. All right, any other additions or subtractions from the commissioners? Hearing and seeing none. This is a motion. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Baldwin and seconded, no, the other way, Barrow and seconded by Baldwin. All right, we've got that. This is roll call vote. Commissioner Barrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Commissioner Edward? Oh, he's gone. Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapietra?
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan is a yes as well. This motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to the consent agenda. Now, Mr. Williams, if you will direct us to whatever the change you were going to bring up regarding the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. I appreciate it. For the minutes, the draft minutes that are listed in your packet, line 4 of page 4 includes a misspelling. Specific line 4 on page 4 states VC Village Center zoning designation of certain parcels to CC Core Commercial should be the last word there. So we would just add an L at the end of that statement to reflect the correct zoning designation of the CC zone.
All right. Are there any other updates or changes? Okay, I know there was one that I was going to bring up. Sorry, we've juggled computers this morning. And it was in regard to closing of discussion on an item that we had postponed for further discussion tonight. And I just want to make sure that we do not have it down as this discussion was closed. Okay, I think it is on page 5, lines 25 and 26. It currently reads, Chairman Homan stated the discussion on T2502 and ZM 2501 was closed, but will continue on the August 12th, 2025 Planning Commission. So we want to make sure that everybody realizes that it truly was closed only for that evening, and it remains open for tonight's discussion. All right, any questions? All right. Any other changes, updates, corrections to the consent agenda, to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second, who's the second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Baldwin and seconded by Commissioner Barrow. It's a roll call vote. Commissioner Barrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Commissioner Edwards is gone right now. Commissioner Tagliapetra?
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to the public comment period. Residents may address the Planning and Zoning Commission to comment on issues, problems, or successes on topics that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Audience members will be given an opportunity to comment on agenda items as they come up. Speakers must register with the village staff prior to the beginning of the meeting. I have a list of those who signed up to speak, and we will give you each 3 minutes, and you need to give us your name and address. However, I see nobody has signed up. Is there anybody in the audience that missed the opportunity to sign up for a public comment? Seeing and hearing none. Darnell, is there anybody online that's wanting to give a public comment?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, we will go ahead and move on to our first public hearing. Again, anyone wishing to provide testimony during this portion of the meeting, including applicants, agents, members of the public in support or in opposition to a particular matter, must sign up on the corresponding sign-in sheet. Will all those who will be speaking before the commission tonight please stand to be sworn in? Mr. Chappell, if you will do the honors.
If you will raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Thank you, Mr. Chappell. Okay, our hearing is V2503, which is a request by Walter Gill with Modulus, okay, Design. I apologize if I butcher anybody's names. Agent for Oladapo and Selena Tamori. Trustees for the Tamori Family Trust for a variance of 631 square feet to the floor area ratio limitation to allow a total of 5,826 square feet of buildings, structures for the property located at 720 Mullen Road, Northwest. Zoned A1 Agricultural Residential and legally described as Tract 4A, Mullen Road Addition. The subject site contains approximately 0.576 acres in area. This is deferred from the June 17th, 2025 and July 8th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The following will apply to this item of business. The Planning and Zoning Department has deemed this matter to be a quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and judicial protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence of due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at the time of any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Commissioner Barrow, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this issue?
No.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Edwards is not present. Commissioner Baldwin, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter?
No.
Commissioner Tagliapetra, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter?
No.
Commissioner Haywood, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this issue?
No.
And for my own self, I do not have a conflict of interest, nor have I engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Mr. Williams, may we please have the planning report?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. As was mentioned upon introduction, this matter has been deferred a couple times before this committee. I think we have ironed out all of the issues and are, I know I speak on behalf of the applicant and their agent. They're ready to proceed tonight. As was described by Madam Chair, this is a request for a variance to the floor area ratio, or FAR, limitation for the subject site located at 720 Mullen Road Northwest and is zoned A1 agricultural residential. The applicant is seeking a variance of 631 square feet to the floor area ratio limitation, which would allow them a total of 5,826 square feet of building and structures to be built on the property. This is in association with a planned or a proposed redevelopment and development project for the existing home that's on the subject site. When the application first came in, staff reviewed it, looked at the zoning designation as A1, and based on the annexation of the property, which was back in 1967, couldn't initially determine how we got a A1 lot that was less than an acre in area. But upon further research, staff determined that in November of 1986, there was a request for not only the subject site as well as 3 other adjacent lots to apply and got approval for what was called a cluster housing provision under the zoning ordinance that was in effect at the time. That was ordinance number 58, thereby resulting in these essentially half-acre lots despite the fact that they were zoned A1. The applicant has submitted their materials for the request. Those are outlined in your packet. And they indicate in their written explanation that they believe their proposal meets the 3-prong criteria for approval of the variance as is listed in the zoning code. Specifically, they cite that the proposal meets the objectives of the master plan because it preserves the rural character of the A1 zoning district. The future construction project has been designed to maintain open spaces on the lot, to avoid overcrowding, meet permeability standards, and will comply with required setback requirements. They also indicate that the design supports multi-generational living in the spirit of traditional homesteads, reflecting the community's cultural heritage and enduring the values of an extended family living. Secondly, they indicate that the request is consistent with the character of the neighborhood and the village without causing any detrimental impacts, as the proposed design complements the established character of the neighborhood, reflects development of the general area. This character includes a variety of lot sizes and home-to-lot ratios, and the diversity is a defining feature to the neighborhood character. They also state that the proposed design complements the neighborhood's architectural styles and spatial rhythms and does not constitute overdevelopment. They indicate that they support the existing diversity of the area, and their intent is to honor, and they are honoring the intent and the purpose of the A1 zone. Perhaps most importantly, the third criterion, as the Commission is aware, deals with unnecessary hardship. They indicate that their proposal is affected by special conditions and other relevant factors that are listed in the undue hardship section of the code, which indicate that the granting of the variance is substantially justifiable. They argue that the 2003 adoption of the current FAR limitations, which came into effect after the cluster housing designation of the subject site was granted, results in further restrictions to the buildable area, that the property is unique in size as it relates to the A1 standards, and they indicate that this is a minor deviation that's needed to meet the density requirements. It's basically a 2.3% increase to the floor area ratio limitation. Last month, prior to the hearing, the village received some questions and concerns about the request, and it was argued that there were related procedural and development standard matters that needed to be addressed. This email is included in attachment 2 of this portion of the packet. Staff has looked at those arguments and those concerns that were raised. The agent also provided additional information based upon some of the issues that were raised in that email. But specifically, they've noted that the guest house is proposed, it's not existing. Apparently that was a point of confusion previously. They recognize that additional applications, reviews, and approvals are all part of the development process. If the variance were to be granted, they understand that they have other hoops that they have to jump through. They've also provided, the agent also provided a breakdown of the permeable surfacing calculations and the square footage for the project. It was also argued that there is some confusion about whether or not an attached garage is allowed in conjunction with a guest house. The standards are somewhat specific. They state that a guest house may not have a garage, but that provision has historically been interpreted by the village, or specifically the Planning and Zoning Department, to prohibit direct access from the guest house into a garage. That application seems to be consistent with the definition of a guest house because it doesn't allow, the code does allow for a guest house to either be a standalone structure or it could be attached to a dwelling, and in some cases, a dwelling has an attached garage. So inherently, it seems that as long as there's no direct access to the garage, that meets the intent and the purpose of that prohibition on a guest house having a garage. Staff has reviewed the additional information that's been presented by the applicant in their argument to justify the variance. It does seem to be consistent with the variance criteria. There are several factors based upon their arguments that do appear to affect the subject site, that do result in some exceptional physical characteristics of the lot and some associated confinements. Also, their statement that they're seeking to just minimally exceed the floor area ratio requirements does seem to be related to the standard that variances should only be granted to the extent necessary to allow for the particular request to move forward. With that, Madam Chair and Commissioners, the department is recommending approval of the variance request based on the 3 findings that are listed in the staff report. I'll stand for any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have questions at this time for Mr. Williams?
Mr. Williams, is the pool existing on the property?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Tagliapietra, I'll defer to the applicant. My understanding is that the pool is proposed.
What about all the hardscape? Is that also proposed?
That's, Madam Chair, Commissioner Tagliapietra, that's my understanding.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to hear from the agent or the applicant, whoever is going to speak, and if you'll give your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Walter Gill, and I'm with Modulus Design. My address is 912 Broadway Boulevard, Northeast, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87102.
You can give us a brief description.
Yeah.
Address
so-
the questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are requesting a variance to a property that was recently purchased by a family that I am designing their project for. We went through the design process with them and tried to really organize a renovation and addition to the home that best fit the needs of my clients, while also navigating all of the requirements with the village code and as well as the CID code or I guess the county. And so with this, we, kind of ran up against a FAR area, a floor area ratio that limited the project in a way that we wanted to look at seeing how we could still maintain all of the other requirements, but only with this design, it does exceed the FAR area, the floor area ratio by a very minimal amount of a 2.3%. So currently we're allowed, with the calculation, it's roughly a 20.7% of our lot is allowed to be developed. And we are at 23, let me see if I have that exact. And yeah, 20.7, and we are right at 23%, which is that 2.3% increase. With that, there are a number of things with the project that we are looking to develop. They are a family with kids that are middle school, high school. They are looking to add a pool to their backyard and redevelop all of the landscape and hardscape on their lot. Currently, there's a decent amount of asphalt and other hardscape back there that we are planning to remove and redevelop with permeable surfaces, as well as some paved surfaces like around the pool and whatnot. But really, we designed a project that would meet all of the setback requirements, the permeability requirements of the site, and really wanted to kind of design a project that meets also the goals of the family that inhabit the house.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant, the agent?
I do.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Commissioner Tagliaferra?
Are there no landscape plans?
Not at this time.
It's not.
Okay. It was just a question.
Yeah.
It was just a question. Will they be happy if maybe the guest house isn't approved, or maybe the pool isn't approved? Would they still be happy with this? I'm just asking. Would
I
they?
could not, I don't think I could answer that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Martinez, I think you had.
I guess the only question that I have is in relating to going forward, and I think that a red flag came up with the pool, et cetera, and when you put it into a perceived upcoming, I think we have kind of understanding how far is this going, and are we taking it a piece at a time, or why was not the pool and the landscaping, et cetera, incorporated into the original one so that we can make a decision based on the bigger picture versus you get away with this and then you come in with something else that may or may not be our ability to make the decision on specificness. And so I guess our biggest concern is, what is the full intent? And the question being, why wasn't the full intent brought in as a full plan versus piece by piece?
If you will.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, can you address, please?
Madam Chair, thank you. Commissioners, the request before you tonight is simply for the variance, and I can appreciate Commissioner Martinez's comments, but at this point, and I don't want to speak for the applicant, so jump in if I say something that's incorrect or not absolutely correct, that tonight is just the variance. In speaking with the agent, my understanding is that if for some reason the variance were not to be approved, they have options available to them. One would be to appeal the decision of this commission to the Board of Trustees, which is outlined within the code. Alternatively, they could make some rather tough decisions on the design of the project in order to come in to meet the code standards, in this case, the floor area ratio requirement. But certainly the applicant and the agent, and he's expressed that to his clients, that this is step one of probably about 8 different steps where the village will need to look at a proposal and ensure that it meets the code requirements. So if the variance is granted tonight, it's only specific to the density, to the FAR. They recognize that probably the next step in the process will be an application for conditional use approval to allow the guest house. And they submit documentation and drawings and a written explanation to the village, and village staff confirms that that information meets the technical requirements of the code. And if that's approved, then the next step in the process would be a building permit. And so they come through and they submit architectural drawings. We go through the process and we do what we need to do. They go to the county, they get their permits from the county, get their inspections, and the construction portion of the house and the buildings are completed. Then the next step would be the swimming pool. And so there are any number of related but separate processes for development on the lot at any junction during that review, approval, consideration period. Things may change, and it's the applicant or the property owner's responsibility to determine how those will be addressed. If they meet the code requirements, then the village theoretically can approve the request. If they don't, then they're presented with options as to how that can be addressed. That may be another variance.
Thank you.
Mr. Baldwin?
And
So just,
if I can also add to that.
Certainly.
The drawings that were submitted include everything that you were asking about. So the pool is calculated in the permeability calculations on the site plan. The guest house is included on there. We just understand that the variance is the first hoop that we have to get through for the floor area ratio. So we do have areas called out for what is considered permeable that will be landscaped with trees, shrubs, all that. We just don't have a detailed landscape plan that is to be executed, as in irrigation and all of that, call outs of exact plantings, a call out of exact ground cover, whether it's mulch, gravel, all that. But everything shown in our plans that are submitted is the final product that we are hoping to achieve.
So I guess my last question also, and I don't know if you can answer it, is that in everything that we're talking about, the pool, et cetera, do you feel that there are going to be any other variances other than this one that is going to come in before us?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, not at this time.
Okay.
But again, if the commission chooses to approve the variance for the floor area ratio, it does not mean that if they get ready to put in their swimming pool and the calculations are done and they're off on their permeability standards for the swimming pool, adjustments will have to be made to the swimming pool in order to get a permit for it. It's not, oh, we showed it on the site plan when our FAR variance came through, therefore the commission or the village is somehow obligated to approve, a swimming pool, for example, that wouldn't meet setback or something of that nature.
Thank you.
Mr. Baldwin?
so just to be explicit, this is a series of processes, sequential processes, not something that can be considered by this body concurrently. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Baldwin, yes, ma'am, that is correct.
So to the applicant, as a part of your approval process for the conditional use guest house, will there be landscape designs with more detail than is currently present on these materials? Or is that just something that is intended, but not in the approval process?
Typically the landscape drawings are required at building permit and not for any of the zoning submittals. And so really the conditional use will be for the approval of the guest house. And so we will submit the site, the location of the guest house, the size of it, and have any of the other applicable kind of site requirements that are needed for it. But the landscape will still be a kind of more or less an area, a calculation of being shown with trees and plants and whatnot, but a lot of that really doesn't get to the point of final landscape stuff until the very, very end, because a lot of that is still subject based on what happens here. So really a lot of it is if we don't want to go too far, spend too much money to apply for something that could just get shot down is the overall idea. And so we're trying to be open and clear and just say, this is what we'd like to do. This is what we're presenting. And if we get approval, we'd like to continue further. We'd like to continue further, just to be, I guess, open and honest about that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, sorry for the interruption. And just to remind the commission, this is an A1 zone, it's a residential zone. Landscaping is not a requirement in this zone. Obviously, if the applicant or the agent chooses to show that or represent that on a drawing, they can do that, but there is not a requirement that there be ground cover, street trees, things of that nature, landscape buffers, as say in a C1 zone or the GD zone, which do require landscaping plans to be reviewed and approved.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, would either of the Tomoris like to speak to us? If you'll provide your name and address.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Oladapo Tamori. I'm speaking on behalf of the Tamori Family Trust. Thank you for the opportunity to give us a hearing today. I just want to reiterate what our agent has said, that what you have before you is the master plan. There's not going to be any additions to it. However, our understanding was that nothing happens until the variance goes through, right? And then, so we understand that the master plan is there, but the approval process is sequenced. We're not sequencing the plans, we're sequencing the process. We're following the rules that were established for us by the Zoning and Planning Commission. You know, as it is already, we've run through quite a few delays here with respect to the variance, so we have really not been able to go forward until the variance is done. And we just didn't see the point in incurring additional costs when we had no idea where this was gonna go. So hopefully that addresses any outstanding questions you might have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Commissioners, do we have any questions of the applicant? Seeing and hearing none. Thank you. Darnell, is there anyone online that wishes to speak for or against this issue? No. All right. So input from the public is closed. Commission discussion, do we have any?
In order to do discussion, I'll make a motion.
All right.
I move approval of V2503, a request for a variance of 631 square feet to the floor area ratio, FAR, limitation for the property located at 720 Mullen Road Northwest, zoned A1 agricultural residential within the 4th Street character area based on the staff findings listed in the staff report.
Is there a
Second.
Okay. So it's been moved by Commissioner Baldwin and seconded by Commissioner Barrow. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment that it's nice that it got to a point to where instead of coming in, they went back to staff and arranged and rechanged and allowed it to come to us at a place where we can feel comfortable. So I want to make a positive comment about that. We appreciate that. We understand time, but we appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Barrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Edwards not here. Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra.
No.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
Commissioner Homan, yes. Please let the record show that the motion has carried in approval. So your variance has been granted.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Please let the public record show that the hearing on V2503 is formally closed. And we move on to TA 25-02, which is a request by the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque to amend the text of 9.2.14 Village Center Zone, 9.2.2 Planning and Zoning Commission, 9.2.3 Definitions, 9.2.5 Establishment and Interpretation of Zones and Character Areas, to remove unused terms, modify existing formatting for consistency, and establish additional development standards, as well as create new zoning designation. And we've got 9.2.14.5 Core Commercial Zone with all applicable zoning requirements and regulations. Mr. Williams, can you give us a report, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. Just a reminder, this matter was continued from last month. We had some discussion, did hear some feedback from members of the public, did have an opportunity for commissioners to submit some recommended changes and modifications to the standards. So I won't go all the way back on this particular matter, but just remind you that this is coming before you. It has a parallel application for a map amendment, ZMA 2501, which should this commission approve or make a recommendation of approval as it moves on to the Board of Trustees. Ultimately, if it's approved, if the VC changes and new CC zone is approved, the zoning map would need to be changed or modified as well to reflect those changes. As you'll remember, this matter comes before you after several months of work by various community members and working groups to address concerns of the VC zone, specifically for properties that are outside of the designated project area. Through discussion, the groups ultimately determined that a new zoning designation, which is being proposed as Core Commercial or CC, is intended to provide clarification and refine uses that are enumerated within the VC zone, both permissive, conditional, and prohibited uses, as well as development standards, development regulations to meet community expectations. Specifically, what's being requested for change is, I mentioned the elimination of the project area within the VC zone, as well as a mandatory submission and approval of an economic development plan through the site development plan process. There had been some confusion on several fronts as it related to what does that economic development plan look like, what information does it need to include, and when should it be submitted or when should it be reviewed as part of the site development plan process. The changes seek to clarify that. As it relates to the new proposed standards of the CC zone, the CC zone incorporates many of the development standards of the VC zone, but the most notable difference is the reduction of building height in the CC zone to it's a reduction from 48 feet, 3 stories, 48 feet, which is allowed in the VC zone, down to just 2 stories and 26 feet in the CC zone. As I mentioned in the July meeting, there were comments that were provided not only at the podium by members of the public. Some commissioners offered some suggestions as well, but email correspondence was received with changes. Those are outlined, all of those comments that were received are outlined in attachment, or listed in attachment 6 of your staff report. But specifically, there were some comments that were incorporated into the latest version that's before you tonight, and then there are some that are listed toward the bottom of page 3 and all of page 4 that were not included. After speaking with the administration, they did not agree that they needed to be included. Those are listed there. We can certainly discuss those should the time come tonight as we work through this matter to talk about those. But the comment is provided, the zone is provided on the far left-hand side. The comment that was received is listed there, and then the reasoning is the last box of that chart. We did receive comments at 4:15 this afternoon from a member of the public. Madam Chair, Commissioners, I have copies of those comments It's basically a one-page, 3 points that are made by Mr. Donlin. But obviously, coming in this afternoon at 4:15, they weren't included in your packet. So would defer to the commission as to, I can disseminate these now. My understanding is that Mr. Donlin is trying to attend, he's trying to get out of work and attend tonight to testify. We could possibly continue and wait for him to attend, but I'll defer to the commission on that. And unless there are any questions, the presentation is concluded.
If I may make a note into the record, Commissioner Edward has joined us. All right. What is the commission's wishes? Okay. So Commissioner Tagliapetra, you would like to hear,
I'd like to read them, what Tom sent in.
or do you want him to read them into the
Or read 'em
record?
into
Or
the
whatever?
minutes, or what, or record, whatever you have to do.
If it's the will of the commission, I can disseminate the comments that he's provided. We have copies for everyone, and Michelle has extra copies in the back if a member of the public want to review that.
Please.
I mean, I would like to see them in addition to
Yes, if
hearing
we've
them, or at
got, if
least
we've
have
got
them on
copies, it'd be wonderful for us to see as we go along.
Thank you. Thanks.
So for anybody listening online, Mr. Williams has passed out these written comments that were received from Tom Donlin. And if you will go over them, that will enable us to move forward.
Madam Chair, these are, again, comments that were emailed in for 16, not 4:15 this afternoon, from Mr. Donlin with comments to the commissioners.
Okay. How would you suggest we proceed at this point? Mr. Williams, I'm looking to you, how would you think we should proceed? Should we discuss these or just continue with our general discussion, and as these items perhaps come up, we can discuss them as they appear?
Madam Chair, unless the commission has questions of staff, I think it would be appropriate to solicit public comments from members of the public, but certainly, solicit comments from members of the public, and some of the comments may relate to issues raised by Mr. Donlin, but certainly the commission has the responsibility and the authority to discuss the items the comments that he's presented to you. So if he's here and he wants to testify, that can be done. If not, I think the commission is well within its authority to talk about the 3 issues that he's raised.
All right, I don't see Mr. Donlin in the audience. Darnell, is he by chance online? He is not. Okay.
Madam Chair, point of order. I do think it is appropriate to read his comments into the record if he is not here during that time, in which case they would be a part of the record officially, and I would
All right.
ask for that.
Mr. Williams, would you like to do the honors?
Well, yes, I mean, we can, certainly the comments go into the record, so they become a part of the record. Are there specific items? Would you just like me to summarize what
Yes,
Mr. Donlin is?
Summarize is
would be
fine.
great.
He's indicating that he's urging the 26-foot, two-story height limitation in the core commercial zone and address takings if it's raised. I believe what he's indicating is that he's in support of the 26-foot, two-story height limitation. Secondly, he says he strongly opposes removing the restrictions on drive-ups and drive-throughs in the CC zone. And lastly, he would like to see the park area on Osuna east of 4th be converted to R3, which is not part of the proposal tonight, and not be zoned VC or CC.
All right, so let me start with that one. Do you know what the benefit perhaps would be, Mr. Williams, of moving that park to R3 instead of it being part of the VC or CC zone? Is there any particular advantage that you can determine?
Madam Chair, I'm not aware of Mr. Donlin's reasoning for that. Again, all of the properties that were zoned VC project area with this proposal are proposed to be converted to straight VC, and all of the existing VC zoned properties that are outside of the project area are proposed to be converted to CC. So where R3 comes from or came from, I'm not sure. But again, that wasn't how the request was advertised.
May I interject?
Yes, Commissioner Haywood.
So one of the comments that I brought up is that Edgewood Park becomes orphaned because it doesn't switch. But I was not making an issue about it because the intent ultimately will that it goes into the MU zone, which does not exist at the moment. So leaving it sort of hanging, I think, is okay because there's an intended zone coming up. I think Mr. Donlin's intention of R3 is simply because Edgewood Drive is R3. So it's just consistent with the area. That would be my guess, but I'm speculating.
Commissioner Martinez?
Mr. Williams, one of the things that I think a lot of us is concerned with that specificness is parking or becoming a parking lot. And I guess the main question that I continually fight over with is why are parks not allowed to be parks without any kind of zoning other than parks as being parks versus a R, commercial, et cetera, et cetera?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, park as a use, public park is allowed in a variety of zones. I don't have those before me, but certainly VC and I believe the CC zone allows parks as a conditional use. And as it relates, and I'm sorry, you mentioned something about parking.
Well, I think what the intent is that everybody's continually defining, as we've talked about, that the issue with parking on the apartment complex is going to get to a point to where there's going to be necessary to find other parking, and people are looking at that might being the opportunity to be able to transform. And that's been on the table forever. Okay, so it's not a new thing on it. But my reasoning for saying a park under the regulations of zoning should be a park, and the guidelines for the park should be a park versus other added additions to that you can't have it in a zoning, but you have specificness to where basically a park should basically be defined as a park versus an addendum to another zoning in my thought frame.
So Commissioner, if I'm understanding, a park is listed as an allowed use, I think in the CC zone, which Edgewood Park is being proposed to be zoned, adopt the new zone. It does seem to me, and I'm just kind of looking at it, maybe we put the new director on the spot here, but it does seem to be, it would seem to fall under civic support, a park, a public park, which would require conditional use approval. Now, the existing park wouldn't have to go through that process because we're essentially looking to change the regulations at this point, but any new park that would be proposed in the CC zone by the village as a public park would have to come through the conditional use process. Am I missing something?
And I guess what I'm trying to define is that when you develop a particular area and you decide to put a park in it, and the park should have its own merits as a park, not a zoning that you have an attachment to. And I'm kind of trying to understand why you can't separate the two versus a park should just be a park with the zoning that it has for the park itself versus it has to be this zoning, but this is an attachment for it to be a park that is addendum to the zoning, if you understand what I'm.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, I think I understand what you're saying. Some codes will have a zoning district only for a park, where you can't do anything else in that zone district besides a park, and it'll set forth design regulations for what parks look like. The Village of Los Ranchos has no such zone district, and every parcel has to be zoned something. And so the park that you're referencing is zoned based on what it would have been converted to when the VC and CC zones came into place. So absent a zone district that is just a park, we have to fit it into something.
Okay, got it, okay. And I'm kind of saying, we really need to kind of, because we are developing out and parks are an important part of it, we should actually look at a specificness for a park where we don't have to attach or detach from it. It becomes a park that has its own merits to it. And maybe I'm stepping over the bounds of trying to rechange.
I think our Director Schultz is basically has stated that every parcel within the village has some underlying code, R3, A1, whatever it happens to be. And then the overlay, of course, is just the park. Should for some reason, and I would never think that the village would ever do anything like this, but just to throw it out there, if, for example, the village decided at some point it didn't need a certain area to be a park, and they wish to sell it or develop it, there would need to be some kind of a zone underneath it, underneath that park layer.
Yeah, okay.
So that's it. Now, Commissioner Baldwin, you had your hand up next, so.
Two-finger salute. I just want to underscore what Commissioner Haywood said, right? A year ago, we were talking about an MU zone for municipal uses that would cover a lot of this. And unfortunately, you know, other things sort of pulled up top and that piece has kind of gone away. So I'm urging a pin to be stuck in that as, can we get back to that? Because I think it would address a number of issues, of heartburn issues around particular park spaces and grassy areas that I think are more appropriate as MU than sort of rando uses within other underlying codes.
Okay, Commissioner Edward.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thanks
Thank you
letting
for
me
coming.
talk. I feel pretty strongly about this idea that there has to be a specific zone for park. Otherwise, to me, the park is temporary, only to be undone by somebody else. And at the end of the day, people bargain for a park to be a park. Altura Park, how about if we make Altura Park a 10-story building? Because the underlying zoning would allow that, because we can't come up with a distinct zoning for Altura Park. Can you imagine that? The house would come down. How about Central Park? We're going to make Central Park a new tall building. No, it's a park, it's a park, it's a park. It's not that hard. I mean, you just take out a pen and you write it in the code. Am I missing something?
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Chappell?
may I address that? I understand what everyone is saying, but I think the bottom line is, if it's not zoned for what the village wants it to be zoned for, the village is the zoning authority and they can change it. In the case of the parks that we're talking about, the village owns them. And if they want them to be used for something else, the village has the ability to sell them and change the zoning. The law in New Mexico is that, and there's some case law out of Fort Hills, even though a plat is done and the city requires a dedication of a park to the city can change its mind and use it for something other than a park, and in that case, sell it to a developer. So what everybody seems to be concerned about is tying the village's hands so they can't change that in the future. And you simply cannot change and chain, is what I'm trying to say, bind future legislative bodies for what you do today. So in Robert's question, I think there was some talk, or at least something, that because of the parking restrictions on the Palindrome property, somebody said, well, we could use across the street. The village never went along with that. And if you look at the site development plan that was approved, the parking is all contained on the site south of Osuna. So that's not a part of the plan. At this point, they have a special zoning permit for what they have. And if the south part is developed further, they pick up another 41 spaces. So I think as a practical matter, if you're trying to create something and put it in concrete so that the village can't change its mind, whatever the zoning is or whatever, it's just not legally something that can be done.
Can we just wait till somebody sues us? Because at the end of the day, I'd like to see the person who's going to file that lawsuit.
If you go back to the Fort Hills case, there are a lot of people that sued everybody saying the city cannot use that for anything but a park because that's what it was dedicated for. They didn't pay it. They required that it be dedicated for a park. And the court said it belongs to the city and they can do what they want to do with it.
So is that a precedent to establish all law in New Mexico, or that's just one case that turned out that way?
Well, at this point, it's precedent. In other words, if you got something in the legislature that would change that, it might be, something's changed, but that's simply the legal part. The underlying legal principle is that this body, the Board of Trustees who makes the decision, cannot in its decision bind a new Board of Trustees at a different time so that it can never change things. That's kind of, that's just the way the system works, and I think that's all over the country. So I'm just saying, as a practical matter, I understand it, and I may agree with it, but I don't think you can get there from here by just saying it's a park zone, because another Board of Trustees could change it to a commercial zone or residential.
And that's what we don't want. And to the extent that that's the case, if somebody wants to sue, that's the alarm clock, and it gets everybody to wake up, and they come in and they put their foot down. And to the extent that you don't have that, that stuff can happen overnight under the nose of everybody here. And for somebody who might be, working for the village who's compromised and they don't have the ability to stand up to the people who are in power.
And Commissioner Edward, I understand that. And I'm not saying that's a good rule, but just like the legislature, this legislature that we're going to have legislative session in the state cannot pass a law that says the next legislature can never change that law. It just doesn't work that way. And so I understand, and you may can do what you would like to do with it, but it's not a part of this ordinance that's being before you, and that's all we can work with tonight is what's before you. That would have to be a new ordinance or something, but it's not something that can ultimately done. The question is just what will your Board of Trustees do in some future date?
So the land that was purchased by the city of Albuquerque for open space for Petroglyph Park, you're saying that can be undone?
In the city of Albuquerque case, it was specifically dedicated on the plat at the requirement of the city to have a park at that location and deed the property to them. The city, 25 years later, decided it didn't want to build a park there, didn't want to use a park there, so they wanted to sell it to a developer, and the court upheld that decision.
So what's the next best thing?
Make sure you elect the right board of trustees.
Well, within the zoning, what we're trying to talk about here today. I said, what's the next?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edwards, I might have a response to that. Since we're on the topic of Albuquerque, when Albuquerque updated their zoning code, they created zoning districts for parks and zoning districts for open space. And when they kind of rezoned the entire city into their new code, all of their open space and all of their parks got new zoning districts that are specific to you can only do a park here, or this is only open space. Yes, zoning can be changed. The city could request a zone map amendment to rezone something from a park to commercial or residential, but that's a public process. They would have to take that to the Environmental Planning Commission, the equivalent of this board, or the city council, depending on the size. And so that's the way that Albuquerque approached this, was they created a zoning district, which inherently creates public process for when you want to change away from that zoning district. In the example of this park, because it has commercial zoning right now, the village could develop it as commercial if they wanted to. That wouldn't be the case if it had a zone district that didn't allow that. I think the gap that we're experiencing here is the village doesn't have a parks or open space zone district, and that is the problem. And that is not something that can be addressed through what's before you tonight. That would need to be a future action or a future request or future policy direction from the Board of Trustees.
So that's under the guide of the Board of Trustees and the mayor to actually make that happen.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, yes, the Board of Trustees is the policy body for the village, and so they are the ones who direct policy direction to include creating new zoning districts. This board is advisory to them in that nature, but to instigate that process, that would come from the Board of Trustees.
So can we vote on something today that puts it in their lap that they have to address that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, I think a finding could be appropriate as you vote on this package to say, we recommend approval or denial, whatever it may be, with a finding that the future of parks in the village came up for discussion during the hearings on this item, and it is the request of the commission that the Board of Trustees address that issue by either directing the planning department or researching how to create a parks zone district for the village.
That sounds good.
And so can we do that so that it doesn't get lost in the wash?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, yes and no. You are advisory to the Board of Trustees, and so they could read that finding and choose to act on it or not. That is the discretion of that board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I think, would it be appropriate and agreeable with the commissioners to go through, looking at page 3 of 5 on the report? These are the comments that have been incorporated to the latest version of the VC and CC regulations. And let's just see if we have any discussion, clarification, additions, corrections.
So this is attachment 1? Are we starting with attachment 1?
I think this is part of the, is it attachment 1?
Or are you talking about the
It's on the
report?
planning report.
It's
Okay.
in the planning report.
Got it. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Haywood, page 48. Okay, so the first one
Cribbed off her.
is for the VC zone, and it says use matrix residential, garage sales, estate sales, etc. And it says, I view these as retail, not residential, therefore delete or move to retail. The reason that was given is listed as are ancillary to the principal use residential and should not be listed as retail uses. Discussion?
Where's Tom?
Yeah, that's Tom, but this isn't his, I don't think.
That was my comment.
That was your comment?
That was my comment, and I'm fine with the rebuttal.
Okay, is it captured correctly?
Yes?
Okay. All right, hearing no other comments to it, okay. The next one, once again, was on the VC zone. Use matrix for the light manufacturing. It was suggested to change the parent designation from C as conditional to P as permissive, because there may be an endeavor that is reasonable to allow or forbid, which is not specifically illustrated in the matrix. The reasoning, as most intense zoning designation in the village, light manufacturing uses should be allowed in this area. However, to encourage retail activity in GRT generation, staff recommend continuing to allow light manufacturing with at least 15% of the total floor area dedicated to retail sales as a permissive use, and light manufacturing with less than 15% retail as a conditional use. Do we need further discussion or clarification on this? Commissioners?
In terms of concurrence or objection? Either one?
Any comment?
Anything?
Well, once again, that was my comment, and I'm fine with the rebuttal.
If I could just, there's a couple places in here where they state a stated percentage in some of these different categories. And one of the things I was thinking of is that, you know, we're kind of at an interesting point in the history because of technology and other things like that. And the transition between our community.
Recording in progress.
I hope it's been recording at the beginning.
And I guess in some ways, I just think that there should be some basic threshold that a whole lot of work doesn't have to go into getting an approval, but there should be an upper end that you can also request some sort of conditional element for, as opposed to it not being permitted at all. Does that make sense? Is this written such that if you don't fall within that guideline, you can't even get a variance for it?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edwards, so to clarify, in the code today, light manufacturing is permissive. The request from the commissioner was to go conditional. The kind of middle ground that staff came up with was in some instances, it would be permissive, in some instances, it would be conditional based on a retail component. So trying to kind of honor the idea that manufacturing can be totally appropriate, but also that fourth is supposed to be kind of an engaging corridor, and manufacturing isn't necessarily engaging because there's no customer service facing element. And so what you see in here was just an idea that staff came up with to try to kind of meet both ends of that spectrum.
Okay. And so Illuminart, who, I mean, how does Illuminart, how they're operating, fit into this aspect of light manufacturing and retail space?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, I'm not familiar with this particular property, so if Mr. Williams is, I'll let him speak to that. But generally speaking, and I'm not sure if this is what your question is about, if we're to change the rules about light manufacturing today and they meet the rules that are in the code today, they wouldn't be affected by this in any way. They would be able to continue on what they're doing. These rules would only be in effect for any new development that comes on the corridor.
Well, I think they're a fun little business, and they do well, and they've been around for a while. You know, if there was a couple more of them, I think that would be okay. So could you duplicate another company like that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, if the proposal goes forward as written, light manufacturing will stay permissive, no restrictions. You are not obligated to go with the staff recommendation. If you think our kind of halfway idea just isn't worth it, then we just don't do that. And light manufacturing continues to be permissive. And if the company you're describing falls under light manufacturing today, yes, it would continue to be able to be duplicated on the corridor.
I would suggest that we continue light manufacturing at it as it is currently in our ordinance. I agree. We've got a number of light manufacturers within the village. And I think due to the, semi-rural atmosphere that we have within the village, we want to continue to promote those small businesses that work with their hands in one way or another, whether it be metal at Metal Art, or they did candle making, or the soap makers, that's light manufacturing.
Right across the street.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch.
And
My
if I could-
husband, CC Molding, trying to think, there's a jewelry factory, there's a number.
Kelly
of
Joe's, maybe?
Yeah. So,
If I could just bring up one point when it comes to manufacturing too, that I want to make. If you want a career for the future, you have to have something that you're going to do physically because of artificial intelligence. And we need to think about the impact that we want to make ourselves available to people who can actually make something because of the elements that how disruptive artificial intelligence is going to be.
Madam Chair, for clarity in the record, I think a motion would be appropriate from the body to request that light manufacturing remain a permissive use in the VC zone district.
is there a motion?
I make a motion that light manufacturing remain in the code as is,
Which is permissive.
which is permissive.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Tagliapetra and seconded by Commissioner Baldwin. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Farrell,
yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes,
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
and Commissioner Homan, yes. On that first one that we had under the matrix on the residential for the garage sales, estate sales, was there any changes? No. No changes? Okay, that sounds good. So the third one down now, setbacks for non-residential zones. This was more of a question why there was no range for a rear setback. Would you, either Director Schultz, would you like to address that, or Mr. Williams?
Madam Chair, yeah, sure thing. So the response by staff sought to nuance out that the code talks about setbacks differently depending on what's next to each other. So if it's a commercial property next to a commercial property, your setbacks are a little more lax because ideally the impact on your commercial neighbor is less than what it would be on if you had a residential neighbor. And so there are different setbacks for when there's commercial to commercial versus commercial to residential. And in the question that staff received, we weren't sure if the commission was clear on that distinction because there should be more setbacks between commercial and residential, but that is how the code is written today. So we thought that the setbacks were adequate as written.
Discussion? Commissioner Edward?
So this combination or marriage of building height, use, and setback, I know that in some communities, this idea of maintaining a certain amount of sunlight on the street has some merit, and if the building gets taller, then there's a step back. I don't know if there's a specific term that I'm describing that's easier said than my long-winded sentences. Is there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edwards, there's two things that I can think about. One, some codes have what you would call a step back, distinct from a setback. That's where you'll see a building kind of pyramid down, and the idea is open air and sunlight. The other thing that a lot of codes have, including the Los Ranchos Code, is solar protections, which implements this kind of complicated math equation where you have to look at where the sun shines at a particular time of day during the time of year, and your building can only be so high as it approaches the northern lot line so that you're protecting the access to sun for your northern neighbor. So those are two kind of mechanisms in the planning world where sunlight is protected, and the solar protections are already in the Los Ranchos Code and have been for a long time.
So to the extent that they have these setbacks, whether people agree with this or not, and you take a look at the project at Osuna and 4th Street, you know, you ask yourself, what if the top floor was set back 10 feet and the one below that was set back 10 feet? How much different would that building look and feel? And what if the building was only 2 stories tall? Would you need that? And how would that feel? I think that there needs to be a dynamic element between a building setback and its building height with the step back, if that's the right word that I just used. Because I have seen buildings of a taller nature where they do have that step back, and it really lessens the impact to the entire environment. And so, you know, it's not in here. And so I don't know how everybody else feels. I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if anybody's thought about it, but 48 feet can be pretty darn high. And it says in here, the building shall be the lesser of 3 stories or 48 feet. When you get up to 48 feet in our environment, that's pretty dang tall. How do you guys feel about any of these things?
Well, Commissioner Edwards, if we can hold off on that and address the setback that we're discussing right now, then the next item down is actually on building heights. So
Well, I want to marry the idea of the setback with the building height. I mean, if a building is going to be 48 feet or 26 feet, it's not just being what it's next to.
But Commissioner, this question was related to a rear setback,
yes,
not
And
a
seeing as
front
this is my
setback.
comment, can I clarify what my
Please.
comment was?
yes, please.
It was not about 0 setback, it was just there was no range. Like 0 to 50 feet. Why is there no range? I mean, I'm not married to a particular setback.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Haywood, correct. When a commercial property is abutting another commercial property, there is a 0-foot minimum rear setback. So you would be asking why there's no maximum rear setback.
But this is residential.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Haywood, it didn't seem necessary for this type of development.
Fair enough. It was just a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you okay with it? Commissioners, or is there any reason to add anything into the code for specifically non-residential zones or?
And the rear setback.
No? Okay. Now, we can move on to the building heights. So the next one down is the building height issue. And the suggestion was to reduce the maximum height to 26 feet or 2 stories. Now, this is more in line with, or it could be a subset of what you are suggesting as far as considerations for your stepped.
Well, I think even if your maximum height is 26 feet, I think this idea of a step back bears merit for all the reasons that were enumerated. The one thing that wasn't clear to me is that what is the true point of its highest measurement? Is it the parapet itself? Is it the actual level of the roof? I know you excluded the masts and flues and elevator bulkheads, but what is the actual measuring stick? Is it the top of the parapet? Is it the actual roof itself?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, it's to the tallest point of the building, whether that's your parapet or your mechanical equipment on top, it is whatever is tallest.
Okay.
It's been requested that we take a very short break. So let's do a quick 10-minute, 5-minute break?
Sure.
5 minutes, okay. Right now, it is 7:21. We're taking a 5-minute break.
I just don't understand it. 26 feet.
Let's reconvene the meeting. Let the record show it is now 7:26. And before we start the discussion back on this item, can I ask whose suggestion this was?
Mine.
Okay, Commissioner Haywood, could you tell us what your concern was?
Are we on the height?
We are on the height.
I've written it right there. I went to all the public meetings, and my interpretation of the public meetings was that was the most objected part of what is now the Trails at Chamisal, I think it's called, was the height.
Okay. And we do have, Mr. Donlin has been able to join us now. And as we briefly read into the record earlier, he had a comment regarding the 26 feet. Mr. Donlin, would you like to address that? If you'll give your name and address.
You need your sworn in?
No, not on this. No, it's legislative.
My name is Tom Donlin. I reside at 6668 Edgewood Drive Northwest. I rise that I attended for the last 3 years almost every public meeting that was had regarding the Village Center. Admittedly, I missed the earlier ones when I could have had more impact, but it was almost unanimous from the village residents, that they did not like and did not want anything higher than what was the standard throughout the rest of the village, which is 26 feet. I personally think there's reasons why you could have something taller, and I've expressed that, and very clearly there was nobody who picked up on that in all of those meetings that I was at. And the notion that there might be a taking, I think the residents are pissed enough about this that they would pay somebody for the taking if they went to do that. But my notion is that if somebody were to do that, they were being greedy and being really not a community member of this community, because they would be going against what the community has expressed its desire for. So I would, I see no quarter in this community that wants to allow another 3-story building to be built along in the 4th Street corridor.
Thank you.
Chair, I can ask a question of intent for Commissioner
Commissioner
Haywood.
Baldwin?
Commissioner Haywood, in writing this, when you're talking about the 26 feet, 2 stories, are you talking about impacting the current development rights as they exist with the existing developer? Or are you talking about in the future, separate from those, from any existing rights that a current developer has?
Because this is an existing zone, Palindrome, for example, which also has a development agreement with the village, which is a binding contract, they have, in my understanding, the right to carry on building at 48 feet. But by allowing this zone to continue at 48 feet, if Palindrome relinquished their development rights, you're still allowing some future company to come in and build at 48 feet. If you change the zone and drop it to 26, anything in the future would be restricted to 26, but my understanding is because of the development agreement, Palindrome would be able to carry on at 48 because they grandfathered in, so to speak. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, Mr. Donlin, we've had your input on this. Mr. Chappell, we're speaking of a potential legal issue. Could you address this?
Commissioner Haywood, I think that is a complex issue as to whether or not you can grandfather in someone like Palindrome, but then not allow someone else to do it. And so I think the direction the village has gone here is to not take on that particular fight in this zone change in order to try to get the core commercial zone done. As you know, that is already a claim for those that are going to be in the CC zone. And, but I just don't think it's practical. I mean, the objectors were here last time. We had a meeting and claimed the down zone for people who have property in the CC zone. And I just don't think it's prudent for the village at this point to take on the vested ownership rights in the VC zone and have that up front also. If you go down that road, then perhaps this zone change will take 2 or 3 years to go into effect by the time you get through appeals and other kinds of issues. So part of this is to try to resolve as best the village can the intent for what is in the CC zone and not get it delayed in extended litigation, which would keep any of this from going into effect.
Then can I ask a question? I feel strongly enough about the building height that I'm going to vote no, but I'm very happy with the core commercial. So could we separate the votes and vote separately on the VC and the CC?
Yes, the one that's before us right now, according to the matrix presented, this is addressing the VC.
Right, but the overall vote, the overall issue on the agenda is for both.
Okay,
And so I would request that we separate out the VC and the CC
okay,
so that if other commissioners go in my direction, which they obviously free to choose their own, if everybody else, other people object to the 48-foot building height continuing, that we're not compromising the CC zone.
Yeah. Madam Chair and Commissioner Haywood, without a vote to amend the VC zone and delete out what is going to go into the CC zone, it can't happen. So you can't separate the two. And the 48-foot limitation in the VC zone is not something that's been in the ordinance proposed. It has not been advertised and is really not before the commission in what's before the commission. But without removing the CC zone from the VC zone, if you vote no on the amendments to the VC zone, there's nothing to go into the CC zone.
okay, I'm not sure I've got this straight now, guys.
I'll be happy to, okay, where did I confuse this? Excuse me.
You can't separate it. You can't separate
Yeah, you can't separate it, so.
Well,
So
we
are
have,
we okay with saying we want the VC zone to be 26 feet? Or are you recommending that it needs to stay at 48? I'm sorry, I'm a little lost here.
all right.
Please guide me.
Madam Chair, the only thing that is before the commission with respect to the VC zone and what was to be amended and what was published, what made public, was what is in the package, and that has 48 feet in the VC zone, okay? So we can't come back and make changes at this late state. I think you could make findings and recommendations for further amendments to the VC zone to deal with height, but I don't think we can do it in this. But the connection between the two is the amendment to the VC zone is actually to take out what is going into the CC zone. And so if you vote no on all the amendments to the VC zone, the CC zone can't continue.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be amended in order to extract that out and put these new requirements on it.
Okay,
And changing the height in the VC zone is not a part of the proposed ordinance. It has not been published. There's no one here to defend their position if they disagree. So it doesn't really meet the open meetings kind of act to make those kind of changes at this level.
we could, however, vote on a recommendation to further address this issue.
Certainly, if there's a strong feeling, Madam Chair, that you would like to have other issues in the VC zone addressed, maybe not height, maybe setbacks or whatever you would like, I think it is appropriate for the commission, if it approves or disapproves, to also make a recommendation that you would like to see the Board of Trustees push other amendments that would relate to the zoning that were not in this ordinance. And those could be properly noticed and discussed.
Okay? Thank you.
So can I clarify that, just to drum this home
Yes.
with hobnailed boots? If I voted yes, but we put a finding in, or recommendation into the Board of Trustees that they drop the height, that would get my concern addressed. Because I don't want any funny business going on, falling through the cracks, and then 48 feet is approved. I mean, obviously, we don't have the final say. I don't want my recommendation as a commissioner going to the Board of Trustees with a 48-foot height in the VC.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Haywood, you are not recommending, by approving this, a 48-foot height.
Because it exists already.
It's because that's not before you. That's already
Right.
what is there. So you could approve the amendments that are proposed and have been published and are before this board, and still make a recommendation that says the 48-foot height should be addressed by another amendment, another ordinance amendment.
Commissioner Baldwin, I think you had something?
Yes, I just want a point of clarification. There are two components of this, the BC zone and the CC zone. Both of these are legislative processes, which typically when you bring something, you have this conversation around signs, when you bring something forward that's legislative, you have the ability to amend. It's not quasi-judicial, as long as it's within the subject matter. I will speak to the CC stuff because that's where my comments came in, but both Commissioner Haywood and I have published comments in the packet. This is not a mystery. This is not a new issue. Both of us were pretty clear about our ideas and concerns. So I just am a little concerned about the sort of narrowness of the box that you're putting us in terms of not being able to do anything related to a legislative process that clearly speaks to both the existing VC zone and a new CC zone. So I just want that sort of on the record for future conversation tonight.
Commissioner Edwards?
I agree. I mean, I don't know. I mean, are we just order takers up here? Or do we have a voice?
We recommend, and I'm hoping
we
we
make a
will continue to
recommendation.
recommend.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Edward, this has been before the commission twice already. And if this issue had come back, and if you want to do that again, it says, no, we want it to come back, and we make a recommendation that you make these additional changes to the VC zone, that is an appropriate process. What I'm saying is, I don't think based on the publication and the notice that you can move to amend that at this stage. You can certainly make recommendations. If you want to go through the process again and come back and says, we're not going to do this, not going to recommend it or whatever, unless you make additional modifications to the VC zone, that is an okay process also.
All right, let's continue down our list. On the CC, there were issues regarding drive-up facilities.
Yes, that was mine.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Yeah, so New Mexico Title 18, Chapter 31, Part 6, and the State Access Management Manual specifically prefer through movements over land access for urban minor arterials. Specifically says we want people to, the emphasis is on smooth movement of people on this road, not lots of curb cuts for various things, that the access is not the priority. And so if we revise what is proposed for the CC zone to not allow establishments of the drive-up facilities, or in some cases, perhaps, have them as a conditional use. There's one area where I would be okay with that. That is in alignment with what the New Mexico statutes say, and the state access manual says, and it would really improve safety for those using sidewalks along 4th Street, because multiple ins and outs increases the danger for both pedestrians and cyclists. I will be making a motion related to this, this particular one, and I don't know if this is the time to, because we don't have a motion on the floor, but if we're making a motion to clarify or a motion, Director, what is your preference? I'm flexible in timing.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Baldwin, as we go through this matrix, which is essentially policy calls by the commission, where you want to do one thing, staff had a comment maybe in an opposite direction, I think it is appropriate for you to make motions to amend the packet as you're going through. So now, as a long-winded way of saying now would be an okay time to do that.
Great. So, for the purposes of discussion and also because I have an opinion, I would like to amend the proposed revisions to section 9.2.14 Village Center Zone and the new 9.2.28 Core Commercial to change the uses table to, on page 3 of attachment 1, the red line for section 9.2.14 Village Center Zone in subsection C, uses, delete the line establishments with drive-up facilities listed as a conditional C use in the auto-oriented uses portion of the uses table. So that's the first, these are all this related to establishments with drive-up for uses. 2, on page 2 of attachment 3, the red line for the new section 9.2.28 Core Commercial Zone in subsection D, uses, change the use for establishments with drive-up facilities from C to X for food, beverage, and alcohol service section, and modify the line to read establishments with drive-in, drive-through, or drive-up facilities. Again, that's the definition in our definitions, is those 3 things. So the fact that we only have one thing listed in there isn't in alignment with our definitions.
So if I may ask a quick question, well, I
Sure.
guess that you made the motion. Was that a motion?
One more part to that motion. And then the third component of it on page 2 of attachment 3, the red line for the new section 9.2.28 Core Commercial Zone in subsection D, uses, delete the line establishments with drive-up facilities in the auto-oriented uses section. So to just clarify this, what I'm doing is in the auto-oriented uses portions of both the VC zone and the CC zone, I'm eliminating establishments with drive-up facilities. So they're no longer an exception that's allowed under a conditional use or a permitted use.
So you're totally eliminating drive-ups.
For the Village Center Zone in auto-oriented uses, and in the commercial core zone in auto-oriented uses. Where I'm allowing it would be for it's sort of not affecting the services section. That I didn't touch. Pharmacy, bank, that kind of thing. So where you've got basically an auxiliary use, I think that's an appropriate thing to retain. Okay. But this would be eliminating it in the auto-oriented uses sections and the food, beverage, and alcohol section.
What do you mean auto-oriented uses?
Well, that is a definition in the code. It's not my definition. I just think that if an establishment is focused on auto-oriented use and it's currently listed as
I mean, auto-oriented
as an
services.
X, we shouldn't have the one thing that it's allowed to do, where everything else is prohibited. We shouldn't allow drive-ups and drive-ins and drive-throughs to be conditional. That doesn't make sense to me.
They should be out.
So that is the first motion, and
I will second that.
thank you.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Baldwin, seconded by Commissioner Haywood. Discussion. Commissioner Barrow?
I have no discussion at the moment. It makes sense to me, although I haven't followed every single.
I talked fast, sorry.
Commissioner Edward, did you have something?
Yeah, you know, So we talk about economic development in our community, and we talk about how are we gonna get money in the door. We have one gas station. And one of the things we need to think about when it comes to this zoning stuff is that we're gonna relegate ourselves to zoning uses that are economically in demand and that might not generate any economic results for us. I mean, to say we're not gonna have a gas station, okay, well, you're forcing yourself into exporting dollars outside of your community, and you're exporting the demand for you to drive outside the community, drive your car more, add to pollution. I mean, if somebody has a curb cut or anything that is an allowed ingress and egress point out of their property, and they can use it for a drive-through element like a gas station, I would disagree. I think that should be allowed. To say, I mean, that's basically,
It's already allowed.
by legislating this, you're eliminating competition, and you're increasing the cost of living.
I don't see it anywhere.
And last time I checked, we got a lot of people in this community who don't have that luxury. I think it's
Yeah, there we go.
it's pretty discriminatory.
Commissioner, just as a point of clarification, the auto-oriented uses, which is a prohibited X in the VC zone, remember, that VC zone is only the site. It is now only the site, the palindrome site. So that does not seem like a significant issue related to there, and it's already proposed as being an X. My amendment would say that establishments with drive-up facilities are not allowed in that VC zone. When you talk about the commercial core zone, we have down to that, it's brand new, so it's not really amending, but the proposal allows for drive-up facilities in food and alcohol service, in services,
Two banks.
and in auto-oriented uses, although again, auto-oriented uses as proposed is prohibited. It's just saying drive-ins are allowed and drive-ups. So I'm just trying to create some, a more improved pedestrian environment and cyclist environment, as well as recognizing that when you're talking about services, those do make sense to allow those continue. So that's why I've made the proposal I'm making.
Commissioner, I think you're off.
I just have one quick question. Do we allow drive-up alcohol sales?
No, the food, it's just.
Well, it's under, it says food, beverage, and alcohol service, so that's.
Yeah, no.
So I mean, I thought drive-up alcohol sales were banned in New Mexico.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes. Even though this code acknowledges that you might be able to have a drive-up facility with an alcohol establishment, state law would preempt that. This code has just never been updated to reflect when state law changed. So it is not allowed today.
Thank you.
I do acknowledge Commissioner Edwards' concerns for economic development. I mean, we had, Starbucks had wanted to come in at one point. And because it is in what is now going to be, well, in the VC zone, we wouldn't allow the drive-up. And Starbucks says, we can't get enough people driving, enough patronage. People don't want to park and walk in. They're on their way to work. They want that convenience of just driving through. So it's kind of a discussion about where do we draw the line between the economic development and perhaps the public safety that you're discussing, or just the visual preferences of our VC zone. Commissioner Tagliapetra.
NCC zones.
NCC.
Yeah, we're amending them.
Do we actually want all of these cars just idling and putting nasty exhaust in the air? Just like there was a truck over at O'Reilly's that dieseled all night long Saturday night. Sat over there and ran his engine all night long. Now, isn't that horrible pollution? I just don't understand.
I don't know if you can blame that on O'Reilly Auto Parts. It has to do with the guy who owns the truck.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I think we need to be careful of when it comes to some of these things is that I used to live in the Southeast Heights. And the Southeast Heights is swallowing on itself in boarded up buildings. And you need to be careful. If you're not supporting your local businesses and you can't get local businesses that you want to support, then you're going to swallow yourself in boarded up buildings and opportunities that are missed and won't be able to happen. And, you know, we're doing all these things for economic reasons. I mean, how many people in here have shopped at a store in the village of Los Ranchos in the last 24 hours? I did today. I do every day. And to the extent that you're not creating these opportunities for people to do this, you're going to cut your nose off to spite your face. I think when it comes down to it, for me, the thing that's more important is architectural integrity and attention to detail and quality. It's not the truck who's idling in the parking lot, which he's legally allowed to do and idle his truck, that's the problem. It's that guy. It's not the store. I mean, that store, in my opinion, is woefully under the mark as far as looking attractive and nice and making our community look good. It's not the parts that they sell in there. I buy parts from those guys. I like having them there.
Other comments? Commissioner Martinez?
The only comment that I need to make is what we're discussing here has total value. Total value. The thing that we're missing out on is the size of our community. And I think that we have to bring that back into it, because the size of our community and what we have available to us should really determine what we have the ability to do. Because if we start doing what we're striving to do, I think we're going to really start looking at what we're looking at right now on 4th Street, a misnomer of different products because of certain circumstances. And I think it's important for us to really continue to recognize we're a small community. Allow this small community to grow in the right process. The discussion that we're having right now is a great discussion, but I think what we're doing is we're bringing a big city mentality and a future development mentality where it really doesn't have the ability to grow to that point in this small village. And it's important to have this discussion because the end of the story is it's there forever. But I think what we have to do is continue to bring to our concept, like you talked about, architectural is important. Historical is important too. See what I'm saying? And I think that what we're needing to really realize is that we are a small community to want to stay a small community, correct? That's the way this whole village is arguing and fighting for. So let's keep that small community invested into the conversations that we're having in here, and I think that we'll make the right decisions. And that's just a comment.
Yeah. I just want to bring up one quick thing. We talk about a walkable neighborhood, but I don't see people walking, and I don't see people going to places because they close down at 7 p.m. We don't provide any incentive for these businesses to stay open, for people to walk around when people want to walk around in the evening. You can't find a restaurant that'll take you after 8 o'clock at night, much less 7 o'clock at night. And some of them don't even stay open often enough to make it a worthwhile bet to go over there and see if they're open. I was talking to several people about this today. I mean, the village should take a stance that there's going to be a gross receipts tax holiday between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. to get people to actually stay open and run a business. And if you want people to walk around to do that, you know, otherwise it's just me and my kids on our skateboards and our bikes going up and down the sidewalk, and we like not having anybody out there.
Okay.
That's how it plays out right now.
Commissioner Baldwin?
There's no question that 4th Street is our commercial core, is the heart of our small business community, and I hope will continue to be the heart and strength and support of our business community. The motion before us today is to do two things. One, to improve the safety for those using the sidewalks along 4th, because multiple curb cuts increases the danger. And then retaining the conditional use of drive-in, drive-through, or drive-up facilities for services like bank or drugstores that have ATMs or other windows as an auxiliary use. And existing businesses that have those drive-up, drive-in, or drive-up facilities, as with all things that we do when we change the code, will become non-conforming but be able to retain what they currently do. We're talking about a very specific trade-off piece between pedestrian safety and additional curb cuts for very specific types of businesses, not the health and welfare of the entire business community, which I think all of us, to a person, care deeply about ensuring is healthy and strong in this village. So I would hope that we could take action, whatever that may be, on this particular motion. As soon as the comments are
If I
done.
can just point out, you're implying that if there's a drive-through facility, there's going to be a new curb cut. And my understanding is if a development comes in front of you, you guys are going to request some sort of a traffic impact study, correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, yes, that's correct.
And if it doesn't pass the smell test of the traffic impact study, it takes care of itself, right?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, yes, that's correct.
So I think we're kind of huffing and puffing about a much to do about nothing because the curb cuts are the curb cuts. And if it can't pass a traffic test, it doesn't, we don't have to ban it. It's just going to ban itself.
Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and call the question. So we've got a motion before us that basically would limit the drive-in, drive-throughs to service-oriented facilities such as banks and pharmacies.
In the CC zone.
In the CC zone. And I guess that would eliminate foods and whatever other kind of drive up there might be that would be a retail purchase going through it.
But just in that zone.
But just in the CC zone. Okay. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Barrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Edward.
No.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra.
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
Commissioner Homan, no. Okay, the vote has passed. It looks like we're going to support only service-related drive-ins, drive-throughs. Okay, moving on, and that's in the CC zone. Okay, stored materials. Right now, prohibited abutting 4th Street. One of the, who was it that brought this up? Was it Commissioner? Okay.
I did a similar one, so I'm
Yes,
just,
I've heard
okay,
several
all
people
right.
talking about Vera.
I will tag and pass along. So in the question I had with storage, in the CC zone, we have a variety of items related to storage. I think there were 2, get to off-street signage. Okay, so outdoor storage regulations, you've got 2, stored materials are fence screened and fully buffered from view, and stored materials shall be safely contained. I am concerned again about that creating that 4th Street environment right up against 4th Street, where if you have a bunch of stored materials, it's not particularly inviting as a business community. I think there may have been a misunderstanding in reading this, that I wasn't saying an entire site that abuts it, like all the way back in the entire site, can't have storage. It's just that it shouldn't be right up against 4th. The comment is that a ban within 10 feet might accomplish this intent, but what I think is maybe more appropriate is 18 feet, because that is the existing prohibition of parking adjacent to the 4th Street right-of-way. So this would make it parallel to, there's currently in the proposal 18 feet for parking, that you have to be at least 18 feet back from the 4th Street right-of-way. So this would just make it parallel, my soon-to-be proposed motion.
So I do know that in some of the ordinance, and I don't have the reference right now, it requires stored goods, if you will, to be screened. So currently, I wouldn't consider having them all stacked up with a tarp, well, not even a tarp, it's almost like just rope or netting to keep it together. I do not take that as screened, so. Commissioner Tagliapetra.
And my whole issue with FARA that all the time I've sat up here is that it says screened. That fence does not screen anything from view. Don't get mad at me. I could be okay if it was screened down behind the fence so that you don't see all the trash. The plastic's falling off. One of these days, a big wind's gonna blow that stack of bottles over and there's gonna be broken glass everywhere, which is a hazard for the vehicles on the road then too. But this needs to be screened. This has gone on way too long. And we have screening in our ordinance now, and it's never been enforced, never.
Other comments?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. We have code enforcement people that don't seem to be enforcing the codes, and they're pretty obvious, and it's a problem. And it puts us in an awkward situation here to then create certain rules and restrictions in such a way that if the rules were just enforced, that would make a big, big difference. And one of the things when it comes to storage, and this is really problematic in Albuquerque, is these storage containers. And they use them as a pseudo warehouse, and there's tons of them. I don't like that idea either. I do believe businesses need the ability to receive goods and to ship goods. And so when it comes to something like, I'll use VAR as an example, if those are out there for 72 hours as they are trying to reorganize the inside of their building, ship out something, a ship comes in an order comes in early, excuse me. I think that it's like temporary parking. We have parking for shipping and deliveries throughout our communities of this United States. And I think something similar to that. I don't like this idea of a hard and fast rule, because we're gonna put a constraint on them that logistically, especially since COVID, logistics are a problem. And, but it does sit out there. There are things that sit out there for months.
Years. It's been years on those.
It's been years.
So,
I see it daily.
so I just want to kind of bring that up.
All right. All right, so, were you, yes, okay. Commissioner Baldwin?
I do
you
have a
gonna make
motion. I move on page 7 of attachment 3, the red line for the new section 9.2.28 core commercial zone be amended so that the new proposed section 9.2.28 core commercial zone in subsection R, outdoor storage regulations, adds number 3, stored materials are prohibited within 18 feet of the 4th Street right-of-way. This would create a parallel to the existing proposed off-street parking regulations in subsection P, which specifically states parking is prohibited within 18 feet of the 4th Street right-of-way.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Baldwin and seconded by Commissioner Haywood. We've already done our discussion unless anybody has anything
one.
additional.
Can you do a friendly amendment to that?
I don't know, is it friendly?
Let's hear the proposal.
Well, I guess to the extent that we set it back 18 feet, I guess your feeling is if it's that far away, they're probably not going to do it at all. Is that
I don't think that's accurate. I mean, in any site, you can sort of rearrange where your storage is or where your parking is. I mean, that's something that can certainly be designed. I mean, again, the intent is to prohibit parking within 18 feet of the 4th Street right-of-way in the entirety of the commercial core zone, just simply saying that storage shouldn't have a higher priority than parking if parking is under that restriction. So it just makes it parallel. But, it wouldn't prohibit somebody from storing things so long as it's properly screened. Again, those are two separate things. And I would totally agree that, you know, as we look at where there are code enforcements to be done, that those happen and should be happening already. I'm talking about while we are creating this new commercial core, that we take the opportunity to true up so that this would make storage parallel to parking.
So would all the green chili paraphernalia be considered storage out in front of the fruit basket?
I don't think it's,
All the extra supplies in the boxes and stuff?
I don't, well,
and I also don't
The
know that
propane
it's
tanks
within
and-
18 feet of the right of way.
I think that's
but, you
equipment.
know,
I think that's just.
it's
equipment.
also outside the village, but,
I don't know.
No, the one that's,
oh, the one up there, I thought you meant the fruit basket.
no.
The one
The fruit basket's in the
between Bledsoe and,
Is the village, we gotta do something about the lines on the south end.
Mr. Rosales' place.
Yeah, Mr. Rosales.
Rosales' place.
And the fruit basket too.
And
I
the
mean, if
fruit
we
basket,
can do
no?
that, both of them would have it.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
don't,
think that's their business function, I mean, you know.
yes,
it's
I don't
equipment.
call that storage,
Movement, a daily movement.
but.
Yes. But I do understand if you were talking about if they brought in cases and cases of boxes and just had them stacked waiting.
well, if they unloaded
But they don't.
if
They don't do that either.
unloaded a flatbed trailer and they've got all this product sitting out there, I just, you know, that is a culturally unique thing in the village, man. You know, there's not many places in Albuquerque where people say, let's go to the valley because I know that's where I can roast my green chili, and they've got plenty of it. So I don't want it to be so restrictive that we're gonna carve out a couple of things that makes us unique, because quite frankly, I would love seeing those green chili boxes out
Oh,
in front.
absolutely. I don't think we're
And
talking about
so-
green chili.
And I think those are turning over on a daily basis when they're out there.
I do have a question for Mr. Brennan. Did you not tell us before that fell under some other, like the chili roaster people, that he fell under a different category about, we were talking about the landscape, he didn't have to have the landscaping because he was a part-time part-time, I don't know
Seasonal.
what words you used in there, agricultural business or something. I thought you had said something like that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Talia Petra, I may have. I think I remember the particular piece of property. And if I recall, they did have their village permits. I believe a former director deemed them to be temporary in nature, and the buildings that were there were deemed to be temporary in nature, and therefore they weren't required to provide landscaping, an off-street parking area, things of that nature, if I'm remembering correctly.
Because he falls under that, would any of this actually affect him under what Commissioner Baldwin is proposing?
You would be more familiar with the location within the village, but I don't think it's within the area
don't think
that
it
we've
is either.
specified as,
He's up there almost at the
BCCC.
gas station, at the AX gas station.
that's way
That's
north.
way up there, so I don't even think he falls within the CC.
I think he's straight C1, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And I don't think the fruit basket is in CC or VC or anything, so he's C1 also. So this rule would not affect these people, is that correct?
Correct. The proposal that Commissioner Baldwin is suggesting would be specific to the suggested proposed CC zone.
The CC zone, okay, thank you.
So, and I also don't believe that the fruit basket would be in the CC zone.
No,
He's a C1.
they're both on either side.
They're both C1s.
So I think the real issue here is how do we get them to fully fence, screen, and buffer from the public view, as it states in the ordinance. And although moving it back 18 feet would help it not be quite in your face as you're driving down the corridor, it still has to be buffered. And I don't see that happening right now.
We just need people to enforce the rules, man.
Yep.
I agreed. I think there's
There's a step there.
there's no question. That is already in place. I think my motion is to create a parallel, but in alignment with parking, to create that environment that we're looking for on Fourth.
Okay.
But no question, enforcement is a huge piece of the equation.
Have we made a motion and a
Yes.
second?
The motion has been made.
And it was seconded.
I'll second.
Did you second it? Yeah, it was already seconded, and we were discussing a friendly amendment from Commissioner Edward.
Yeah, I'll withdraw. I was just gonna say that it has to be screened. If it's already in there, there's no sense in adding screening when there's already screening.
Yeah, it's already there.
Yep, already there.
Okay, so with that, I will call the question. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
and Commissioner Homan, yes. So that, I'm sure it's being captured by our director and consultant there. Okay, so we've gone through the immediate suggestions that were included in the planning and zoning report. Are there any others that we need to discuss?
Can I just ask a clarification question? These motions and approvals that we've made about these comments, is that because they were CC, not VC? Because now I'm still harping on about my height.
That was the
Can I make a
last.
motion, can I make a motion to amend the height, the way we've done these others?
The floor is yours.
I mean, that was sort of my question, is that if it has been published and if the packets included the raising of the topic, I found it confusing as to why we wouldn't be able to do a motion on anything that was.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Haywood, because it's a fundamental issue in the VC zone, I thought it would probably be out of what the publication was for. But if you want to make the motion and do it, you can. I mean, you've got the latitude to do it.
You can do it as perhaps a recommendation for further consideration by the Board of Trustees.
I just feel like it'll have more teeth if we make a recommendation and we forward that to the trustees
And that would be an individual
encased in the
recommendation.
in the code, as we've done with these last couple of topics, rather than just having a footnote saying, oh, please consider this at your leisure.
Madam Chair and Commissioner, my concern about it before is what we have been talking about so far were things that were discussed in the prior two meetings and we had comments on, and those were changes that were made from the last draft, and so they were in the context of what people might be expecting. But since it's just a recommendation to the board, if you want to move for an amendment, I think you can do that.
Okay,
Yes.
the floor is yours, Commissioner Haywood.
I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but I would like to move that we decrease the building height in the VC zone from 48 allowable feet to 26 allowable feet in the forthcoming iteration of the VC zone.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, I'll call.
Madam Chair, may I ask a clarifying question of the sponsor of the amendment? Is the change to just 26 feet or 26 feet and 2 stories? Because the code talks about feet and stories at the moment.
26 feet and 2 stories.
Thank you.
Okay, is that agreeable to the second?
Yes.
Okay, so Commissioner Haywood was the motion maker and Commissioner Tagliapetra is the second. We will continue with the roll call vote. Commissioner
Hold on.
Barrow, oops.
Can we have discussion?
Oh, I asked for it, nobody said anything
I'm sorry, I
earlier.
was spaced out.
Okay.
So one of the things that I would like to, what is interesting and appealing to the eye and cultural elements, things like chimneys, different architectural features like a bell tower, a clock tower, things like that add uniqueness and a rich fabric to buildings other than they just come right up to a certain height. I'd like to find out if somebody was going to put, does that include the chimney height?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, yes, it would include chimney height. It's the tallest part of the structure, whether it's a chimney, an HVAC unit, parapet, et cetera.
Yeah. I do like the idea of 26 feet, but I don't like the idea that, you know, you couldn't have something that would add to, I'm in some buildings that are 2 stories tall. There's an elevator tower that doubles as a clock tower, and it kind of adds as a marquee element to it. And it's right in the middle of the development itself. And it does add a nice height, depth, and I'm struggling with my words as to, it makes the project more 3-dimensional as opposed to a 2-dimensional space of a hard line of 26 feet. And I would like to talk about if we can make an amendment for certain architectural features, that number could be maybe as high as 30 feet or 32 feet.
I have a question. So if someone came with a building plan similar to what Mr. Edwin's talking about, could they have a variance for the clock tower elevator design?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes, a variance can be requested of anything in the code, but the review and approval criteria for a variance is very specific. My understanding of the variance criteria in the village is that if you wanted a variance just for design purposes, that would not meet
It wouldn't go. It has to be a hardship.
a hardship. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add a little comment to that because it just brought it up on, and the difference is in being a builder in my past is that a chimney is necessary for airflow, for the chimney and the fireplace to flow. And when you have 90% of the building at 20 feet and you need an extra 2 feet above it to get your airflow, and that controls the height versus anything else, I think that might be something that we need to discuss as you're talking about a venting system out. There's, in my mind, there's a difference between the elevation and specificness for mechanical needs. Where mechanical needs are little outputs that are necessary to get the airflow, but have a difference in elevation from a parapet. And I think that might be something that we need to discuss specifically because you're just capping at whether it's the air vent that needs to go up that unfortunately has to be 2 feet above it, but makes the whole building 2 feet less. I think that's something that needs to be
But
discussed further.
that's why the caveat of 2 stories was put in there, which I agreed to put in my amendment. 26 feet or 2 stories,
But the 2 stories have to fall within the 26 feet.
not necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, they're not gonna approve you for a 2-story, 30-foot or a 36-foot building the way it's written. Is that true?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, can you please repeat the question?
If the building height was 26 feet, she's saying that you can get around it with the 2 stories, but you're not gonna approve a 2-story, 36-foot tall building if you have a 26-foot height limitation.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, that's correct.
Okay. And so I'm looking at Los Poblanos, and I think about their silo. Their silo was built at a time when it was for functional purposes, but it's created an architectural iconic element. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. To the extent that you have something like that, it creates placemaking, depth, identity, in such a way that is not obtrusive, not that you've got 100 eyeballs peering down on the next door neighbor's house, which I think some people object to, or they get a big monolith of a building that we have that most of us don't like. I think that we're hurting our ability to be creative, and New Mexico is considered to be a creative state, an artistic state, and I think we're hurting the chances for people who are artists in the form of architects to do something that's meaningful to the eye, but also culturally sensitive. If you take a look at the pueblos, like up in Taos, or some of the like La Fonda hotels, their chimneys are functional, plus they're beautiful. and they exceed behind a certain height limitation. I think that, I lived in Washington DC, and if you're in Washington DC, 100% of every single building is built right to the maximum. And you can't tell, I mean, it is uninteresting as uninteresting can be. I don't think that we should allow ourselves that.
Depends on where in DC you are.
Can I just interject
it's
that
10 floors.
Palindrome could have been creative at 48 feet, and they were not. They chose to maximize their profit with a monolith.
So that's what I'm
And
trying to avoid here.
That's why village residents are upset. I don't think they're trying to regulate creativity, they're trying to regulate profiteering.
And so what I'm saying is I would venture to say that we'd have an amendment that will allow for architectural features such as chimneys or something to that effect that constitutes, I don't know, maybe less than 10% of the total footprint of the building to extend beyond that by 6 feet or whatever number the board feels comfortable with.
No.
I agree with you in that context. I guess the question would be, planning and zoning director, is there a language, do you understand what we're talking about? Okay, is there, and what he's trying to ask us, is there an amendment that we could make to that to clarify that above and beyond what's necessary for architectural or mechanical necessities?
And I want them to be visually appealing mechanical necessities. I don't want a 25-ton AC handler out there for everybody to stare at and all the flashing. This is something that is germane to the architecture of the building that makes it stand out in a place that people say, oh yeah, you know that one building over there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez and Commissioner Edward, I understand the question, I understand the request. I don't think staff is prepared to come up with that language tonight. As we think about how to regulate what an architectural feature is, I think I, in consultation with Brennan, would need some time to come up with something that I can enforce as plans come into the department. So I might offer a suggestion, if the commission is open to it, to create a finding related to this request to say, we had this discussion on architectural features. We think there could and should be an allowance beyond the building height to a certain extent. And we would ask that the Board of Trustees take the time to figure out what that is. What that does is it gives staff time between now and the Board of Trustees hearing, if this item is to make it out of committee tonight, to kind of sit at our desks and do research on what would be a best practice and good enforceable language for that. But I wouldn't feel comfortable just trying to come up with something right now.
That sounds good.
Perfect. I think that's a great idea. And if you, would you make that amendment to that?
So to clarify, my motion would stay as it is, and the finding would come as an addendum, so to speak, to the proceeds of this meeting.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Haywood, can you please repeat that?
Just to clarify, my motion would stand as it is, reducing it to 26 feet or 2 stories, and the finding would come as an addendum to the meeting.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Haywood, that's correct. Your motion changed the text. The finding that I'm proposing doesn't change the text. It says, hey, next time you're looking at this item, the commission would request you think about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing that I can think of, I just thought of a couple things that are most germane to this, that are nearby and probably dear to many people in the community. Think of the church at the corner of Alameda and 4th Street. You know, there's some beautiful architecture there, and many of the other churches, you wouldn't be able to have, wouldn't be able to build a traditional style church. Any kind of church, really. I mean, whatever they want to design it to look like.
So,
Are you
okay,
willing to make that addendum, amendment to hers?
no,
It would be a finding.
we have to vote first.
Yeah,
So
what is on the floor?
What is on the floor is the proposal, the motion for 26 feet or
2 stories.
2 stories
In the VC zone.
in the VC zone with a addendum to be considered you want it in two separate,
No, we're not, no, the finding is separate.
Madam Chair,
findings separate? Findings
yes, I
separate?
would agree with Commissioner Haywood that you should vote on just the change to the building height, and then a follow-up motion would be, you know, I move to
Got it.
add a finding to,
Okay, so Commissioner Haywood has made the motion. Is there a second? I second. You seconded, okay. Okay, all those, we'll go through the roll call. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
Commissioner Homan, yes. Now, the finding.
Okay, now,
So, there are two findings that we've talked about this evening. And I think I got them down fast enough. So there are currently two findings within the department's recommendations and findings. The first is the proposed text amendments. Anyway, you'll see them in the packet. The third one would be the P and Z Commission discussed the value of having a specific zone for municipal use and parks and recommend the Board of Trustees add these zones to the code. So that,
Wait a minute, can we address each one individually? Because we're going to need to agree if we want to move that finding.
right, I'm just
She's
saying that these
listing
are
the fi-
two
she's listing the
findings.
findings.
I'm listing the two findings that we talked about over
Okay.
this evening. So we can do them in one package or two. I just want to say, this is what I understand we talked about.
Okay,
So that would be that would be finding 3, and then finding 4 would be, the Planning and Zoning Commission had discussion on architectural features that should, or be able to exceed the height maximum in the CC zone, and urged the Board of Trustees to adopt a way to allow architectural features that exceed height in the CC zone.
is that the motion you would like to make on that particular finding?
Sure.
Okay,
Madam Chair, Commissioners, may I ask a question? You were referencing the VC zone?
I'm sorry, I mean the VC zone, not CC zone, sorry. It's
I'm sorry, you were
VC zone and the
referencing
height.
CC, but I think the discussion was on VC.
It is.
Okay.
Is it just
that's just
VC
my
or
brain not
VCCC?
functioning.
Because we're not addressing the CC height.
Correct.
This is a
We're
particular.
only
VC.
addressing the VC height.
okay,
Correct. I meant VC.
okay.
well, that's easy.
So the motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
and Commissioner Homan, yes. Okay, give me another one. Let's
The
let's
big
get
one?
these findings.
All right.
Finding.
Those are the two findings, right? So,
Well, we did the one finding so far.
We did.
We only voted on one.
We only
okay.
voted on one.
all right, so the other finding is that the Planning and Zoning Commission discussed the value of having a specific zone for municipal use and parks and recommend the Board of Trustees add these zones to the code.
I would suggest that we expand that to include open space and parks.
Sure. So adjustedly moved.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Discussion on this. And this is just a finding recommendation going up.
Just a separate finding.
Okay, here we go. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
Commissioner Homan, yes. Okay, that's 2. What do we got? You said there were 4. You
No,
said there were
no,
4.
the two already exist in it. Two
Okay.
already exist. So we're just adding a third and a fourth, which we have just done. So now,
We can
are we
move on.
ready?
Are we ready? Yes, do we,
Yeah,
what else
for the biggie.
what else do we have going?
Making
A final
to
motion.
approve.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would like to move that the commission recommend approval of TA-25-02, a request to amend 9.2.14 Village Center Zone to modify the existing development standards as well as to create a new zoning designation, 9.2.28 Core Commercial Zone, with all the applicable zoning requirements and regulations as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission with the following staff findings, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which we have all discussed.
I second.
Second.
okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Baldwin,
And seconded by
seconded by 2 Commissioner Barrow and Tagliapetra. Okay, is there further discussion? Nope, okay. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
Commissioner Homan, yes. Okay. Let the record show that the public hearing for item TA 25-02 is formally closed. Now, on to the next item. ZMA-2501, a request by the Village of Los Ranchos to Albuquerque to update the official zoning map of the Village of Los Ranchos by amending the existing VC Village Center zoning designation of certain parcels to CC Core Commercial. Mr. Williams, or Ms. Schultz, whichever.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, there's not a lot to say on this item. It is a complementary action to the text changes that you just made in the previous motion. Brennan and I can stand for any questions, but this proposal changes the zone map to reflect the changes you just made.
Okay. We have, we'll do the questions just a minute. We have one person that's signed up to discuss and speak on this. Mr. Donlin, you have any comments for us? Hold on. Wait till you get up there and give us your name and address.
My name's Tom Donlin. I live at 6668 Edgewood Drive Northwest. Thank you, Commissioner, or Chair Homan and Commissioners. I just would encourage you not to include the park areas in the CC zone, and to take them out of the VC zone, put them back into their residential R3 zoning that they were originally in, so that it doesn't get conveniently turned into parking for the apartment buildings across the street. I think it's all of that land is owned by the village. There's not a taking that's going to be happening here. And it would leave it so that it's there for when hopefully the Board of Trustees creates the new zone that you just requested them to do or consider. But I think right now it leaves them vulnerable to being used for the development, and I think that they just need to be put into park and into as close as secured away from being commercially developed as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, do we have any questions of our staff? Nope. Discussion? Okay, well, I'll need a motion before we can start our discussion.
I move that the commission forward an endorsement of approval of an update to the official zoning map of the village, ZMA-25-01, by amending the existing VC Village Center zoning designation of certain parcels to CC Core Commercial with the following staff findings as included in the staff report.
I second.
Okay, discussion. It's been suggested by Mr. Donlin that the parks be removed. Is there any discussion on that?
I completely support his idea. I do think the risk is low that something is going to happen between now and either an MU or a park or something zone materializing. Personally, I am not going to forget about it. I have a vested interest in not forgetting about it, and I was the one that brought it up. So it's not going to slip through the cracks.
Madam Chair, if I might add a comment, I would worry that once we start cherry picking properties to change in the zone map, that we move this from a legislative process to a quasi-judicial process. And procedurally, that is extremely complicated. And taking one property and choosing to change its zoning in the middle of this legislative process, I think, would get you into QJ territory.
Thank you.
So, would that be like spot zoning?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, I would have to look at the map to see if if what was proposed would be a spot zone, but I think the procedural complication is the actual issue.
It's not a spot
It's
zone,
not.
it would just be contiguous of existing R3.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Edward, now that I've seen the map, it would be contiguous with other R3 zoning. So I would not consider that a spot zone, but the quasi judicial issue, I think, is paramount.
Okay, further discussion? Okay. So we had a motion.
Motion, a second?
Second,
And
discussion.
second.
Now had discussion?
That's right, we've had our discussion, so here we go. Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Edward,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagliapetra,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
Commissioner Homan, yes. All right, so that closes. Let the record show that the hearing for ZMA 2501 is formally closed. That's a lot of recommendations we've made tonight. A lot of great discussion. Thank you, everybody, for all of that. Okay, old business, we have none. New business, we have none. And since I don't see that we have anything else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Tagliapetra. First and second. Seconded by Commissioner Barrow. All those in favor? Aye.
You betcha.
And let the record show it is 8:37 and we have concluded.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Shut down.
Boy, okay?
Yes, baby.
See you guys later.
Thank you for pushing the 2016. Thank you.
I was not gonna bulk on that. I was just not gonna let that one go.
Wait, okay, yeah, we'll wait.
Mary, you go down and unplug, unplug mine too. You already unplugged. Thank you, I didn't mean you go down there and do.
Good.
You're younger than
Good
me.
enough. Let's see, now we should.
There we go. Have you shook his hand? The guy has a habit of giving you a habit.
Who? Who? John?
Oh, every time I shake his hand, it's like
a bear
Danny, my husband has a huge handshake, massive. Crickets. I hear crickets. I hear crickets.
So, show us what's going on next.